Welcome to our podcast series from skillfully.co.za, which is the marketplace of world-class courses for professionals in financial services and related fields. And today we're speaking to Dr. Tessa Dowling, who is Senior Lecturer in African Languages and Literatures at UCT. Tessa is really an acclaimed Xhosa lecturer with a Distinguished Teacher Award from the university. And we're delighted to say that she has a course on Skillfully, Learn Xhosa in 8 weeks. Tessa, thank you very much for being with us today.
Molo Greg Buti, wamkelekile. You're welcome.
Thank you. Inkosi. Now, let's say, to begin, that I don't know any Xhosa and I'm keen to learn. What are some good ways into the language? Where should I start?
I think you should start with a short course. And when you're doing that short course, you should have an idea of how you're going to use what you're learning. So if you learn two phrases in the first lesson, then use those two phrases. Make sure there's somebody that you can say it to, or even if it's to yourself. I've had some really good students who actually just say, they put it on tape and then they listen to themselves. And I know that sounds funny, but they just listen to themselves saying it. And so whatever you do is that it's a kind of repetition and a use. And then I think so, doing a course, I think making friends with Xhosa speakers or whoever the language that you're learning, but if it's Xhosa, with Xhosa speakers, so that you can ask questions. And then it's listening to the radio and being curious about people's names, because people's names always have, in Xhosa, have a meaning. They're whole sentences. Like Siya Kolisi, his name is actually Siyamthanda, which means we love him. So now you know that Siyamthanda means we love him. That just gives you insights into how the language is structured. But really getting your short little phrases, repeating them, making it fun, using it with people, listening to the radio, listening to songs, just being a little bit more open to the signs around, ingozi, danger that you see around, you know what that means, being more open to the fact that we are a multilingual society.
Thank you. Those are good tips. I actually read a lovely profile of Siya Kolisi in the Financial Times recently. Somebody, their journalist had lunch with him. And the journalist said his name means we love you. And I thought, no, it doesn't.
You see, because you do know, Greg, you did a course.
That would be Siyakuthanda, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Wow, I'm impressed.
Well, it was just a beginner's course, but it was with you. And so all the
Yes.
material stuck. Can I ask you something, Tessa? You've taught people from all levels of Xhosa knowledge. In terms of beginners, can you share with us a few useful or interesting words or phrases that you like to teach?
Well, I do like my students to learn to compliment, because in the African languages department where I am, we have a kind of ritual. Instead of people making you feel bad first thing in the morning about work undone or anything, that's not what we're interested about. It's about complimenting each other. So I think giving somebody a compliment would be really nice. And so I always teach people, awusemhle, yo, awusemhle sana. You're so gorgeous today, which actually means you're not gorgeous, but it means you're gorgeous. So awusemhle, I do teach my students that, and they use it to huge effect. And then I teach them how you just, and then because the next thing you're going to talk about is the weather. We don't get deep straight away. We just go weather. So yo kushushu, and it's always like yo, like everything is hectically felt. Like we feel it. Yo kushushu, it's hot, or yo kuyabanda, it's cold. Then of course we've got to complain about things going on in the country, so we're getting a little bit deeper. So we can say electricity, dololo. Dololo is a wonderful word. It just means nothing. So you can just throw dololo tea, as you're looking for the tea in the tea cupboard, dololo tea, dololo, and you can use English. And I do encourage my students to mix the languages, because that is also how Xhosa speakers speak. So they say, dololo electricity, or electricity dololo, it doesn't matter which way you put it. And then I might then say, okay, but you can use a better Xhosa word for that, which is I can't, or there isn't any. So we can say, I can't, or there isn't anything. There isn't anything. That's also nice to say, no problem, I can't, or no problem. But then you say, okay, but if I can't, or means no problem, nothing, then you could also just say, akukho, akho electricity, akho tea, akho coffee, akho milk. Akho means there isn't any. So you'll learn that little thing that is useful that you can then use with English or Afrikaans as Xhosa speakers themselves do.
That's great. So you help people to get going with the language, just with
Yes,
little bits that enable them to
really
be
little
understood
bits.
in a kind of casual, everyday way.
Exactly, exactly.
Let's talk about the benefits of learning Xhosa. And I'm not talking about fluency necessarily. I'm talking about some familiarity with everyday terms and phrases. Obviously, people are going to choose what they learn, how they upskill. How is it going to help people?
I think the feedback that or my own experience, but the feedback that I have from people who really only know a little, like my sister, she did one course of Xhosa, and then she said, when she came back into the country after being in Australia for a while, and she's waiting at the passport control or whatever, and she goes, yo, Diniwe, I'm tired. And she's like, whoa, her queue suddenly moved faster. It was just that wonderful, Wamkele Kaya, welcome home, sissy. And she said, yeah, like I only know a few words, but it was just that immediate connection, that immediate feeling of you're one of us. And I think that is one of the first things of saying a few words in somebody else's language, that there has been an attempt, there has been a reaching out, there has been some effort, no matter how small, to learn to say something in that person's language. And I feel it myself when I go to the Eastern Cape and everybody only speaks Xhosa. And then somebody says to you, good morning, and it's the evening, but it's okay because it doesn't matter. And how are you? And where are you from? And then you suddenly think, wow, this is just very lovely that somebody I haven't heard English for a while and they are speaking to me in English. So I think if you can think about yourself being stuck in Russia and no one saying a word, or stuck in the Eastern Cape of English, and then suddenly hearing it, the feeling that it gives you, it is really good.
That kind of making a connection with your fellow South Africans, I guess. And it sounds like the benefit is not a linear one where just having done, a course for a month or two is going to give you a tiny bit of benefit. It feels like it's quite substantial.
It's really substantial. And I feel
Mm,
that my students who say that just when they go out into some counseling profession, or they're working in marketing, or they're working at a shop, and then they can just say to somebody like, "Ndingakunceda ngantoni, how can I help you?" Or "Ucelani, what are you asking for?" Or "Hlala apha, sit here." Doctors that I've taught who've said, just words of comfort that they've been able to give. I hear you, ndiyakuva. Small little words that I'm teaching you on this course, words of
mm,
sympathy, words of congratulation that you're able to use. And as you said, it's not linear, that the person themselves, you get huge benefit, but the
mm,
person themselves gets a sense of, relaxation and comfort.
And I suppose if we think about, many of our trainees on Skillfully are in financial services and related fields. I suppose it's a way to reach out to your colleagues, to your clients, to all kinds of stakeholders. And it's an implicit way of letting them know that uh, you care enough to make this connection, which is a meaningful thing. I mean, I when I was in France last year, I tried to use my beginner's French in various contexts, and I'm not sure the reaction I received from the French people could best be described as extremely warm and welcoming. But it sounds like the South African context is a very different one here.
It's extraordinary to me
Mm,
because this is our country. This is our country. So it's extraordinary to me that people are always so happy when you speak Xhosa here, that it's very seldom that you get a bad reaction. I haven't ever,
mm,
but it is just like, wow, wow. and calling people over to come and see, and you're thinking, I don't know if I can sustain this. If this is just so, I feel like a rock star just because I've greeted somebody and I've said a few words and I've said that it's hot and then I'm lost or I'm looking for the chickpeas or whatever it is. It's just a magnificent reaction and motivation to continue learning.
That's great. And let's turn to what it is to kind of teach Xhosa effectively and also to learn it effectively. As an adult, you have only so many hours in your day, and it can feel daunting to do something so vast as learning a language. And how can we be kind of effective language learners? And what should we be looking for, I suppose, if we're looking for a Xhosa teacher?
I think it's to start small, and it's to
Mm.
be really humble about what you want to say and what you can say. Like the students who I find struggle the most are those who want to say too much at the beginning. They want to
Oh,
say,
wow.
isn't the current political situation, disturbing to you? And no, I wouldn't start there. I would start with the smallest, because, a child, when they're learning to speak, is really just starting pointing at things and then
Yes.
saying a little bit. So I think it's the good student knows their limitations, says, I can spend 10 minutes a day on this, or I can spend half an hour, and I'm going to use that instead of having these big dreams and being disappointed that you can't say more. And that I had a student once who said, yeah, I find my conversations so boring. And I said, well, because I can say so little. And you should try and make those very early attempts still fun, still interesting, because you are branching out and saying something, and because you're listening. I think that's the other thing, is that the good student is a listener. They listen to people around them, they listen to the teacher, and they listening to themselves if they're putting themselves on the tape and listening, and then using that and listening to the reaction. What did the person say in response? If I didn't hear, maybe I could just ask them to write it down. So all of those sort of things, starting small, having achievable goals, like I'm going to learn 2 phrases a week and use those phrases, and then moving on, because it doesn't matter if you learn 2 a week, the next week you will have 4, the next week you'll have 6, and it just gives you more. I have noticed people in businesses who have done a couple of courses, they can actually say quite a lot, because sometimes they've done more than one course. And they saying, yeah, well, I did this course then, and I did this course then. If you ask them, how do you know that much? And all of that is impressive. So
Can
I
you?
think, yeah, just those small chunks.
Yeah, that's great advice. Could you maybe provide a phrase or two I can learn this week?
A phrase or two you could learn this week is, well, sometimes I do ask my students, what do you feel like saying? What is it, just one thing that you think, oh, I wish I could say that. Like, so for example, when I'm teaching the second semester, when it's pouring with rain, all the students want to just say like, oh, it's raining. I know we want to say the obvious, but like when we out, yeah, it's raining, that you want to say that because it's raining and you want to connect with the other person who's huddling under their umbrella, and it's just a kind of connecting sort of thing. So Greg, is there anything that you want to say that you're tired, that you've got a lot of work to do?
I'm not sure I want to say that I'm tired or that
Yes,
I have a lot of work to do. Um,
yes,
but although I want to ask my colleague how they are today.
exactly. And so you would say, Unjani Buddha, Unjani Sissy, Unjani is how are you? All right. If you can't remember Unjani, then you can say, all right, but all right, are you okay? And that again is not me just making things easy for you. Xhosa speakers do say, all right, Sissy. Don't forget that in Xhosa you need to say Sissy or Buti or Mama or Tata or somebody's name afterwards, because just like we can say, how are you? In Xhosa you have to put some kind of title or word afterwards that shows friendship.
So that's great. So it's a good thing to put some title afterwards,
Yes.
Buti or Sisi.
Yes.
So can I do that with my boss? Can I call my boss Buti or Sisi, or is that a little too casual?
Kuyadependa bhuti, it depends. Kuyadependa in that i-boss yakho, ichomi yakho, is your boss your friend, or is your boss somebody that you fear? So for I notice in my department, which is completely African language speaking, they will call me Glecha, doctor. You know, I don't ask them to do that, but
Your
they say
colleagues will
Molot
call you that.
Glecha. So the students call me Molot Glecha. So the
Okay.
tutors, Molot Glecha, they will call me Molo Doc. They would call somebody by their. So yes, all of those who have doctorates, the students call them by that. We call them Buti or Sisi or by their name even if we don't know if it's right. You know, Pakamani, Molo Pakamano, Johnny Buti, all right. So we will call them by their name, Buti, Sisi. Again, the mama thing now is becoming a little bit contested because people don't like to seem old. So they think that mama is like, it makes you seem old. I don't have a problem with it. I'm grateful for mama because, you know, I'm going to the Makulu stage or the Gogo stage. So yeah, I think Sissy is fine with your colleagues or Buti.
Great. Thank you. Now, you offer this course, Learn Xhosa in 8 weeks on Skillfully, and it consists of these 8 90-minute sessions online once a week. So take us through this. What happens in these sessions? I am a delegate taking the course. I log on. What should I expect over those 90 minutes? What's going on?
So in the first lesson, what you're going to do obviously is the greeting. Obviously are the greetings, but I'm also going to give you slang greetings. I'm going to give you, because not everybody greets in the same way, but not
Okay.
too many, not too many. So I could give you a slightly formal greeting and a friendly greeting and a slang greeting. But they will all be connected by the fact that the grammar in all of those is the same. So the you, the u, which is you, is going to be the same for all of those greetings. And then the slang you don't have to worry about because that's you're going to have an English word, right? You know, so that's going to be fine. And then unjani is fine for formal and informal. Unjani mama, unjani sisi, how are you? And so I will then get you to do it. So then I will give you the response. Die right, I'm okay. Und die pilile und die apile. And then I'll get you to say it. So there will be a lot of practice. You will get the phrase and then you will use it. You will ask the question. Then I'll give you the response and you will do the response. So we'll really work through that until it just flows. Because one of the things I've noticed with students is if you do a thing enough, it does just trip off their tongues. So I've only just started the semester now, and my students can all greet perfectly, correctly, depending on whether they're talking to the tutor or to me or to my colleague who requires more formality. So each week, when we're doing a phrase, when we're doing a new topic like the weather or complaining or anything that we're doing, then we are going to do that complimenting. We'll learn the compliment and then we'll use the compliment. And then you will see the reaction. Because sometimes students say, I can say that thing, but then people say things back to me and I don't know what they're saying, and then it throws you out. So I'll give you the kind of reaction you might get and then what you say as a cover-all phrase. So you might not even understand what they're saying back, but I'll give you a phrase that's going to be useful, like shapke, you know, fine, that's fine, or kurat kulungile, and that ke, you can use it all over the place just to mean right, like it's fine. And you that those kind of things that you use, this phatic communication we say in linguistics, you know, it's just something that you put in there that doesn't have to have any meaning, but that just kind of says, okay, that little thing is now over. and we've done it and we feel better.
Yes. So there's a different topic every week. Can you maybe help me? You mentioned complaints. I mean, I know there's so many different topics, but I'm quite attracted to the notion of a complaint. Can you complain to me, please?
Yeah, and that I also got from being so often with Xhosa speakers and hearing the complaints that they make.
Sure.
And they love to say, you're iadi, iadi. Yeah, it's just makes you fed up. And you can see how in English this makes me fed up. There's a lot of words. A lot of time people are scared that if they learn a language, they're going to get so many words. Whereas in Xhosa, iadiga, iadiga. It means it's exhausting, it's tiring, it's boring. It means all of those sort of things. And yet,
Iyatika.
nanso-ke bhuti, iyatika. Yeah, le nto iyatika. It's just like, so the load shedding iyatika, the university iyatika, the economy iyatika. It's just too much. It's exhausting.
Wow. So you've told us how to say to someone that they're gorgeous. You've told us how to say I'm fed up. I mean, I think this actually takes care of a reasonable
Life.
amount of
It's life.
of life. Yeah. What
Exactly.
tell us another topic or two that you cover during these 8 weeks.
So the weather is a big one. Weather is a big one, and because that's what people want to speak about. And also, having observed many, many conversations, people do speak about the weather, and it's Yokuyachisa. Actually, I heard John Matham the other day. He's obviously done a course because he was going Yokuyachisa. It's hot today. It was with that very, very hot day. And it was impressive. I was
Mm.
impressed. I thought any Xhosa speaker listening to the station would be, yeah, John, right, Buti uyazama, you're trying. Again, phrases that we will use like you are trying, phrases of encouragement. I will teach those as well. But getting back to the weather, you'll do all that. It's boiling hot, it's cold. Kuyachisa, it's boiling, kushushu, it's hot. Yo, umoya, you can just say the wind. Yeah, umoya, uyadika. Getting me down, especially if you live in Muizenberg here. Uyadika, umoya. So I can just show you how you can change what you put in the front to make it relate to the wind that's getting you down. So weather, farewells, goodbyes, which we don't really do in Xhosa anymore. So people's like, how do you say goodbye in Xhosa? It's not how you say goodbye. And then people say, you say, oh, hambe kakuhle, oh, sale kakuhle, and no one says that anymore. So I can teach you phrases that are obsolete, but I don't think we have the time. I want to teach you the phrase babayini, which is
That's
goodbye.
great.
Yeah,
That's great. And I
babayini.
suppose if I'm trying out a few phrases with colleagues or clients and I sort of reach the limit of what I have, I could say, from what you've just said, Diazama. So
Yes,
I'm trying.
Diazama, ke Diazama, no, yo, Diazama. Exactly, exactly.
Cool. And it sounds like a very interactive experience. I don't log on and get to sit back for 90 minutes and listen to Tessa entertain me. I'm fully engaged during that time.
You're fully engaged. Ukhona, you're there. Ukhona. That's another greeting in Xhosa is when you say, I'm there. Ndikhona, I'm there. So ukhona, you are there. And you are going to be there. But I also won't freak you out because I know that there are some people who like on a course and they just don't want to be picked on. They're like, don't pick on me, don't pick on me, don't pick on me. They sit there like, don't. And I'm fine. I will never, interrogate you like that. But I would love you to take part. And there's absolutely nothing you can do wrong. Even if you answer, if I ask you, how are you? Or you say thank you. I teach you thanks in Xhosa. So in Xhosa, thank you is enkosi, but it's also diabulela, diabulela. Now it's close to a word which means murder, diabulala. So you don't want to say diabulala, you want to say diabulela. But sometimes students get their vowels wrong. But we good with that, eh? Because if you want to murder, no doubt there is somebody you want to murder. So that's fine. If you make a mistake, that's the other thing. Making a mistake is part of learning the language. Making a mistake in the pronunciation, making a mistake in the vowels. It's all good.
I like this idea, Tessa. And certainly when you're in one's professional life, one's very, very careful not to make mistakes, because mistakes can be so consequential. A mistake can lose you a client or can lose your company income and so on. But it sounds like in your classes and when learning Xhosa or languages, you need to embrace the errors. You can't have a kind of risk-free approach to learning.
You're so right. I think embracing the errors, that is the best thing to do. And in fact, the students who do well are those who you can see. They don't mind about the errors. They're just going to say anything or what they know. They just pack out what they know and they're going to say it and use it. And if they make a mistake, and I tell them what the little mistake is, just tweak it over there, and then they can learn from that and say it slightly more correctly the next time. That makes a big difference. You do get those students who just stay with the mistake, and that's also fine. But I think if you're doing a course, I help you just fine tune it.
Brilliant. And now I want to end by kind of asking about you and your experience. So you've been deeply immersed in Xhosa language for many years as a teacher and as a renowned researcher as well. How has the language enriched your own life?
Immeasurably, immeasurably. I think it's given one such joy that you, even some days, to be honest, if I feel a bit down, a bit depressed, I can phone my friend Nomkita in Ekata in a village, and we'll have such a laugh in Xhosa because she didn't speak English, so she has to speak in Xhosa to me. So we have to speak to each other, and it's just a different insight into the world. So it's also a world view that you get. It's different people's experiences of life, how they see life is just so very different, and so life enhancing to me to be able to connect with people who are not living the same kind of life that I'm living, oftentimes so much more difficult, and a humor that is so uplifting. She said the other day she still remembered how scared I was of the lightning in her house because it rolled into the house that we were in. I had like a lightning roll, and she said that moment stands out for her, that she saw such a iguala, such a coward that I was. I think it's also just what you can hear. So a lot of the time people don't know that you are a Xhosa speaker, that you can speak it. And so you hear stories, you hear gossip, you hear things around you that is going to enrich your life. It's going to make you smile, or you're going to be like horrified, or it's just great what people are saying. I think it's that you can understand also how the language is changing. So these days when I hear my students, Xhosa speaking students speak, I think, wow, if some of my students were to hear, half of this is in English. So all you need to do is just have a few building blocks. Yesterday, a Xhosa speaking student said, no, yeah, even with the dololo electricity ekhaya, and then ndifuna boilisha amanzi. I want to boil the water. She didn't even use bilisa. She used boilisha. And then I find that interesting, how the language is changing and how you can actually say so much. So it's the worldview, it's hearing the radio, hearing news reports on the radio, where you hear the callers saying things that are really sharp about the country and what's going on, that you don't hear on English radio. Far more creative solutions that they're coming up with.
Thanks, Tessa. So
the lyrics that you hear, are great as well. I think there's just
the
so
song
many good,
lyrics.
yeah, plus the lyrics that are out there are beautiful.
So my radio experience will be enhanced. Look, I like this, and I suppose it supplements your earlier answers about the benefits of knowing Xhosa with that kind of simple point that it can be life enhancing.
Totally,
To learn
totally
some.
life enhancing. Really, really life enhancing. And you connect with people and you can get things done. You can get things done better. So if you're just standing there and you're saying to somebody like, I'm lost, I don't know where that is, then they're going to be, yeah, okay, I can help you, but I'll take my time. If you can say, ndilahlekile, like, andiyazi uba iphi na iphi, they're like, sana, I'm getting, and then you just find that there's this whole connection and sense of urgency, as I would be if I lived in a country where I was having to constantly speak a second language, constantly not speak my own language. And then somebody came and asked me in my own language something. I would up my game for them.
Yes, I suppose when you're used to being the one who is reaching out so much,
Yes.
it's refreshing when somebody reaches out for you.
It absolutely, it shows such respect
Yeah.
to be able to speak, also to say it in somebody's own language, the majority language.
Tessa, thanks so much. Diabulela.
Enkosi bhuti, bekumnandi. It was lovely. Bekumnandi.
Enkosi sisi.
Enkosi.
And I, when you've finished watching this discussion, I do recommend that you check out the courses on skillfully.xhosa, which range from technical skills to human skills, including Learn Xhosa in 8 weeks by Tessa Dowling. And Tessa's next course runs from May to June, and you really should register as soon as possible. Register now to reserve your place because these courses have limited places. And if you have a whole team of colleagues, you could make a special arrangement for a bespoke course with Tessa as well. Just drop us a line on Skillfully. And on that tantalizing note, we will leave you until next time. Goodbye.